Aloha, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to another week of live Q&A here on Trauma Recovery University. I'm your host, Athena Moberg. I'm hoping you guys can hear me and see me okay. I had to reboot. Seems like a weekly thing. So welcome. Are you in the right place? And who am I? And welcome. So if you are an adult survivor of childhood sexual abuse or any type of child abuse whatsoever, then you are in the right place. My name's Athena Moberg, and I'm an adult survivor of childhood sexual abuse and exploitation, and I show up here every single week, and I do live Q&A for you guys, the adult survivors of childhood abuse community. So your questions are usually posted right here below the video, whatever questions you would like me to cover on a video, future video topics, or you can send them to nomoreshameproject@gmail.com. You can find me on my website, athenamoberg.com, or you can find us at traumarecoveryuniversity.com. Just a few places and options for you to reach out and receive the support that you deserve. So every single week, I come here and there's a new topic. And tonight's topic is one that was requested by two different community members and two gentlemen, actually. Thank you so much, guys. Our male survivor community is growing, and I'm so excited for that. I have a very deep need to bring hope and healing and just a message of a safe community to the male survivor community. So tonight's topic that was recommended by two of our gentlemen is a two-part topic, and then I'll also be answering your questions. I have a system set up on Slack where I'll be receiving your guys' questions from the Twitter stream and the YouTube chat box. So thank you to Matt. Shout out to Matt for just handling the handling Slack and making sure that I get all your guys' questions. So tonight's topic, again, sorry I keep delaying the topic. Tonight's topic is a two-parter, and it's resilience and getting out of the victim loop, or getting out of a victim mindset, or that loop that we get stuck in, where we kind of just we stay, or we get stuck in victim mode, because that's something that we were used to when we were younger, when we were children and we were little. If we were being abused, we were victims. We weren't adults yet who could make our own choices and choose healthy boundaries and choose to surround ourselves with people who are not toxic, and communicate our needs for safety and for whatever other needs that we might have. So tonight's topic, again, is a two-parter, and all the topics that we have are located over on nomoreshameproject.com, and you can always download a one-page resource on a whole bunch of different topics. We have hundreds of hours of video, and we have almost 200 one-page downloadables. There is downloadable from a previous video on the topic of resilience. And Harriet, if you could pop up a YouTube card and also post a link down below in the description, that would be amazing. Those will be available for you within 24 hours of this live stream going up. So there's a one page and a video on the topic of resilience that Harriet will post for you. And then secondly, there's one on learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is one that really is, again, something we learn when we're in childhood. We get stuck in sort of a helpless mode because when we're children, we are helpless. When we're children, we are small and we don't have the power of choice. We are young and we're impressionable. And, excuse me, I have something in my eye. Oh my goodness. Okay. Hopefully I can see you without having something in my eye. Hopefully that does not stay. Oh my goodness. Okay. So learned helplessness is something that we learn in childhood and we keep with us because it was a coping strategy. We learned that if we just did whatever we were told, we were helpless children at the time, and we survived by any means necessary. So whatever means we used to survive when we're children, we sort of take those same coping strategies with us into adulthood. And those either do or do not help us in adulthood. Sometimes they keep us stuck in sort of a victim mindset or a state of helplessness, and sometimes even a state of hopelessness, which is definitely not a spiral that we want to get into, because it just leads all the way down and it just slides down to the bottom where we end up in suicidal ideation. Speaking of which, I want to issue a trigger warning for tonight's video and tonight's Twitter chat. So if in fact you are triggered, and you're feeling queasy in your stomach, dry mouth, your palms are damp, you're feeling just agitated, and you're not feeling emotionally regulated during tonight's chat or video, I would love for you to reach out to our friends over at RAINN if you are located in the United States. They can be reached at 1-800-656-HOPE. Again, from the United States, you can log on to their website at RAINN.org, which stands for the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. And if you're in Canada, reach out to our friends at the Gatehouse. We have a friend, Stu, who volunteers. The Gatehouse is a volunteer-run organization. They provide amazing resources. And I don't know if they have live chat or if they have crisis care, but I'll be able to provide more resources for Canadians in the near future. If you are located in the UK, I really encourage you to reach out to our friends at the Samaritans, and you can reach them at samaritans.org. Or you can also send an email if you have questions about recovery, about abuse of any kind, rape, abuse, incest, any struggles that you're having. You can email them at jo@samaritans.org. So again, trigger warning, this is your official trigger warning. This chat and this video could be triggering to you. If so, please do not seek help on the hashtag #NoMoreShame on Twitter. Please contact someone that I just shared with you, rather than mentioning that you're triggered on the Twitter feed or in the chat box over on YouTube, so as not to trigger everyone else. We want to be a source of support and encouragement to everyone as much as possible during this live stream, and it will be very difficult for people to receive the support they deserve and the support you deserve if you are reaching out for crisis support in the chat box on YouTube or on the Twitter feed. So that's enough of that, and I just want to dive right into tonight's topic, because this is something that a lot of people are struggling with. I will go ahead and do a screen share to the questions that were sent to me by our community members and the way they were worded. I want to answer those questions. I also want you guys to feel free to reach out and ask me your questions on the topic of resilience and on the topic of getting out of that victim loop, not staying stuck. And when we get stuck perhaps in child mode or in victim mode, how is it that we can get out? So if you are currently in therapy and you are seeing a trauma-informed therapist, which I'm hoping you guys are reaching out, remember what we're always telling you on this channel for the last 3 years: really seek someone who's trauma-informed. If you are a trauma survivor, you deserve to receive trauma-informed care. Trauma-informed care always keeps in mind 2 situations: your root trauma and your triggers or your current behaviors that are things you wish you could change. So any addictive behaviors, any addictions to food, video games, shopping, gambling, spending, porn, alcohol, drugs, codependency, where you're addicted to other people's approval. Those are maladaptive coping strategies. Those are maladaptive behaviors. Those are behaviors that are unhealthy coping strategies. They're ways that you cope with the pain of living. And the reason that you have pain living is because of a root trauma. So root trauma, current behaviors that you wish you could change that are holding you back from reaching your goals and living a happy, healthy life. Trauma-informed care always keeps both in mind: the root trauma and the current situation. So really seek out trauma-informed care because you deserve trauma-informed care. You, the survivors, deserve to receive the best possible care. And you deserve to have someone listen to you. You deserve to have someone care. You deserve to feel validated. You deserve to feel heard. You deserve to feel important. You deserve the best possible care. I don't care if anyone's never told you that before. Whether you feel worth it or not is beside the point. You deserve trauma-informed care. You're worth it. So hoping that you can receive that from me. If you're not able to receive that right about now and you're like, Athena, I really don't feel worth it. You don't know my situation. I'm really not worth it. I hear you. It's natural for you to feel that way. I'm not minimizing where you're at. I've been there. I want you to just put it on the shelf. Athena told me I'm worth it. I'm not feeling like I'm worth it. I'm going to set that right over here for someday when I feel worth it. But she said I deserve trauma-informed care. She says I deserve excellent care. She said I deserve to be heard and to be validated and to be seen and to feel important. And I will receive those things at some point someday. I just don't feel like it today because I'm having a hard time. I'm struggling with some self-worth and feeling like I'm worthy of that type of care because that's not the message I received. That's okay. You are welcome here, no matter what. So I just want to encourage you all, no matter where you're at in your journey. I have a nifty little window over here where hopefully there are some questions coming in from you guys and I can follow along here. Kate says, the victim card is confusing to me. Growing up, I was never allowed to victimize myself. Now I feel like I am. Are we victims? I was never allowed to victimize myself. I don't know what that means. I'm so sorry, Kate. Your question is excellent. I just need you to expound upon that. Are we victims? I understand that. And victim mindset is staying stuck in a state of victimhood. So for instance, when we're children and we're forced to be in a situation because we're young and we're in the care of our immediate family, we have the inability to escape or get out. We don't have the power of choice. We are helpless. And so if we are being abused by an outside source, a family of origin, a loved one, a neighbor, a teacher, someone, we are victims at that point because we are young, we are children. If we are now adults, we have the power of choice and we need to take our power back. And we need to, the way we become resilient is by learning healthy habits one by one, and learning to establish and maintain healthy boundaries, and learning to live our lives in a way that is the way we wish we could have lived them when we were younger, when we were being abused. So we are no longer victims, unless, of course, you're currently in an abusive situation and you're young and you're forced to be in this situation because you're under 18 and therefore, yes, you are a victim. But when you said, I was never allowed to victimize myself, I want to make sure I understand completely what it is you're talking about, because when we are victimized, it means that someone's abusing us. So if you weren't allowed to abuse yourself, then that's good. I'm assuming that might not be what you meant by that question. So if you could please just expound upon that, that would be awesome. I have something in my eye. Oh my gosh, it's going to drive me crazy the whole time I'm on video with you guys. This is real. Okay. So we are not victims now. We have survived our abuse, and now we are adults, and now we have the power to choose who we surround ourselves with. Hopefully that helps you. I'm hoping that helps you. And please, if it doesn't, then let me know and expound upon your question, and then I can answer your question better. So Joey says, I always seem to pick the unhealthy people to be around me. And someone once told me that the reason why I do this is because I love playing the victim role. Is that true? Joey, I have one question. I have the liberty and luxury of knowing a little bit about your background. Were you told that you love playing the victim role by your mother? Because your mother has been a toxic force in your life for quite some time. and she likes to sabotage you, and she likes to project her stuff onto you. And so if your mother is the one that told you that you love to play the victim, I'm not surprised, because a lot of people who are abusive or toxic like to flip the script, and they like to say, well, it's your fault you're being abused. You just love to play the victim. When in all actuality, they're really being abusive, and they don't like the fact that you've called them out on their behavior. So I would just love to know if the person who told you you love to play the victim is someone who's toxic and perhaps abusive. Because you guys, toxic and abusive people love to flip the script. They love to deflect every ounce of responsibility for the way they talk and the way they act, flip the script and put it back on you and say, well, the reason I'm talking to you that way and cussing at you is because you act this way, and this way. There's no excuse for you acting that way and cussing at me. Sorry. Learn to speak to me like a human using normal language and a normal tone of voice, and I will then listen to you. Otherwise, you're not really allowed to talk to me that way. Sorry, I'm not a fill in the blank, whatever name you're calling me, and I don't need to hear you talking to me in that tone of voice and projecting your stuff on me. So until you choose to speak to me in a normal tone of voice, in a respectful way, I'm choosing not to listen. There's a way you could respond. Yeah, when toxic and abusive people flip the script and project their junk on you and don't take responsibility for any of their actions, that's pretty common, and you don't have to stand for it. I'm giving you permission to not stand for that. I'm giving you permission to find your voice, use your voice, and not allow them to talk to you unless they're going to use a polite tone of voice and speak to you in a way that is respectful. That's it's not asking too much. So hopefully that was helpful, Joey. And Kate, I would love to know what you meant by you were never allowed to victimize yourself. Maybe what Kate meant, I'm grasping here, and then I'm going to go to a screen share if I don't hear back from Kate. So maybe what Kate means is that she was never allowed. It's like one of those things where you're being abused, and then if you cry, they're like, I'll give you something to cry about. Quit your crying. I'll knock you clear into next week. You better stop your crying. Quit playing the victim. Like if that's the case, like you're a child and you're being abused, and it's natural that you're crying because children cry, especially if they're being abused. So if you were not allowed to cry and say, stop abusing me, then maybe that's what you meant. And that's natural also. Abusers love to flip the script. They love to blame you. Like if like I have a family member who beat the absolute shit out of me on like a very regular basis. And they would say, well, I was so worried about you. I love you so much. And maybe you shouldn't act that way. And it's like, you're a psycho and you're beating me. I'm 5 years old and you're beating me because you were worried about me. Like that's not an appropriate response to worrying about me. Sorry. I wished I would have had that language at 5 years old. Can you imagine if a mom was beating her 5-year-old daughter? Like literally beating her to where she's like curled up in a ball on the ground and like she's hitting her head on furniture and like horrible things are happening and there's bruises and crazy stuff. Can you imagine if the 5-year-old little girl stood up and said, that's not an appropriate response. If you really were worried about me, then you should tell me, I was so worried about you. Where were you? I didn't know that you already asked permission and said you could go around, and I didn't know that you were told you could go around the corner to your babysitter's house. I didn't know where you were. I was so worried about you. I love you. Let's have food, real food for dinner. Can you imagine if like that really happened instead of having the shit beat out of you because you didn't come home on time and because you were told by the husband number 2 that you were allowed to go around the corner? It's almost like I was there or something. I mean, really, right? Okay, so there's more questions coming in, and then I'm going to go to a screen share. So Young at Heart says, I'm already a warrior. Good job. but I slip back into survivor every now and then, referencing the victim loop. Okay, young at heart, I want to encourage you that when we move from survivor to thriver to, I'm assuming there's a like a workbook you're following or something, and now you're a warrior, and you start off as a survivor. Well, you start off as a victim because you're a child, and then when you are beginning your recovery journey, you're a survivor, and then perhaps you're a thriver, and then perhaps you transition, and then you finally become a warrior. I'm assuming it's a workbook, or perhaps you're referencing Rachel Grant. I know she goes from survivor to thriver. I don't know if there's warrior in that one. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember. I can't recall off the top of my head, but I want everyone here to know that when we start off as victims when we're children, and then we realize that we were victims, and we are like, hey, I've survived this, and I'm going to thrive in my life, and I'm going to fight my way through this, and then, perhaps become a warrior, or whatever name. Like, there are some communities where you're called unicorns. There's some communities where you're called princesses. There's some communities where you're called more than conquerors. There are different communities and different workbooks and different like verbiage that is used for when you overcome or you triumph through something. And I want to tell every single one of you, whatever community or whatever workbook or whatever it is you're working through, when you make it and you arrive to a certain point, you don't automatically, magically just stay there. I want to give you permission to have grace with yourself. Nothing we do in this journey of recovery is a one and done. Nothing is a one and done. Like, we don't climb to get to the top of Mount Everest, which is when we become a warrior, and then we just stay at the top of Mount Everest, because there are no bathrooms and like food and I don't know if there are bathrooms at Mount Everest, but I'm just using it as reference. So like, we don't ever just like do it once and then we just, yay, we're warriors forever. Like, it's natural for us to phase through the different areas of our recovery. Nothing is a one and done. In other words, like when we establish a healthy boundary with a toxic loved one and we let them know that they're not allowed to speak to us certain ways, like rarely will they only ever speak to us respectfully and at a normal tone of voice forever. We're going to have to maintain that healthy boundary over and over and over and over and over again, ad nauseum. Like, it's going to become annoying because you're going to be like, I've established this boundary with you. I've shared with you that I don't like it when you speak to me in that tone of voice using those derogatory terms. My name is Athena. You don't need to call me all of those names in that tone of voice. If you'd like to have a discussion with me, I'd be willing to listen and have a discussion with you if you would like to speak to me in a respectful manner. I've established this boundary with you several times, and I'll just continue to let you know. Every single time you decide to talk to me in that tone of voice or use those words, this is the response you're going to get. So I'm hoping that that analogy will help you with the warrior question, because like, I'm thriving in my journey right now as a survivor, but there are days when I can barely get out of bed. Like, let's say I have a trigger. Let's say I'm having a PTSD episode. Let's say I'm really struggling with body dysmorphia. Let's say I'm really struggling with self-worth. Let's say I'm in the middle of a faith crisis and I'm just like, God, where are you? I'm not feeling much like a warrior on those days. I'm feeling pretty weak. But it doesn't mean I'm not a warrior. It just means that we never arrive. Everything is a continual, lifelong process. Kind of like in Alcoholics Anonymous, they talk about living one day at a time. Like, they tell you, make sure you're not thinking like, I'm never going to drink ever again, or have an alcohol beverage ever again. They say to just that can overwhelm you. I grew up going to AA meetings with my dad. We went to AA dances, and everybody smoked cigarettes and drank coffee. So I remember them saying, like, don't say I'll never drink again forever. They talk about like doing it one day at a time. Like, today I'm not going to have an alcohol drink, alcohol beverage, or what have you. So like, regarding the warrior question, young at heart, it's never a one and done. It's always this lifelong journey, this process. It's never a destination. It's a journey. And I know that sounds exhausting, but I promise you, you have fellow sojourners along the way. We are all here with you and you're not alone. And I hope that helps you. So let me see here. The victim card, I'm going backwards now. Okay, wait. I hope that helped, Young at Heart. So I'm going to move on to Grace Hope's question now. Grace Hope says, when I hear victim mode, it triggers me. My mom said, oh, you want us to feel sorry for you, poor little girl. Let's all say poor thing. Now, Grace Hope, I am so sorry if what I have said triggers you. I'm so sorry. It was not my intention. I want you to know that many of us were told, you just love to play the victim. I was told that. I was told that by someone who was supposed to be a safe person, and then they flipped it on me and they were like, huh, you just love to play the victim, don't you? So it's very triggering for me as well, Grace Hope. I'm hoping that we can move through this together, and that you know my heart and my intention is not to trigger you, but to share with you that being stuck in a victim mentality is not to our benefit. It is to our benefit, and maybe we could find a different way to say it. Maybe that's good. Maybe we could find a different way to say it. But for all intents and purposes, I'm going to continue to use the words victim loop or victim mentality or victim mode for the purposes of this broadcast, because it's where I've started and I don't want to trail off somewhere else. But Grace Hope, you are not alone. I got told the exact same thing. And what happens is, Grace Hope, is people who are toxic or abusive in nature, when they get called out on the fact that they're being toxic or abusive, they flip the script and they project their shit onto you. They don't like the fact that you've called them out on their shit. And so then they blame you. It's called the shame blame game. Write that down. I'm sure it's not like a legal term or a medical term, the shame blame game, but I'm going to just tell you right now that there's a thing, okay? The shame blame game goes like this. I'm an abuser. I'm toxic. I'm going to abuse you and manipulate you and exploit you in ways that you don't like. You're going to call me out on that behavior, and I'm going to feel ashamed of that behavior for a millisecond, not because I'm human and because I know that it's bad to abuse people, but because I didn't like the fact that you called me out on my stuff, because I'm toxic and abusive, remember? And so I feel angry and ashamed that some lowly other person that I'm abusing and being toxic towards and manipulating and exploiting, they've called me out on my behavior. So since I feel ashamed of that behavior and I don't like that they called me out on it, I know what I'll do. I'll blame them for it. Head. Psychological warfare, baby. That's what I'll do. I'll fuck with your head. I'll completely flip it on you and I'll be like, huh, you're the reason that there's a problem. You just love to play the victim. What I'm doing isn't a problem. You're the problem. They flip it on you. It's a total mind screw. It's what they do. That's the real answer. I should have put like a rated R rating or like rated R for language or something at the beginning of this video, which maybe I'll have to go do. But anyway, that's the answer, Grace Hope. Abusers and toxic people don't like it when we call them out on their stuff. They do weird things like pretend to have heart attacks, pretend to have asthma attacks. They don't like it when you stand up for yourself. They don't like it when you tell them that what they're doing is abusive. So they do all these other crazy things to divert the attention. They like to divert your attention from the fact that they're being abusive. So they want to point in 12 different directions. But it's this. Oh, I'm going to die. I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm going to have an asthma attack. That way you'll maybe forget that you're blaming them and pointing a finger at them for being abusive and toxic. And then they want to flip it around and point it on you. They think they're going to bank on the fact that you are going to feel bad, and they're going to try to garner sympathy from you or try to manipulate you into feeling responsible for their actions. This is a big old light bulb wake up call for a lot of people. I'm going to get some nasty grams. I'm going to get some ugly comments down below. I swear. I know I'm gonna. But I'm telling you the truth, you guys. You can't make this stuff up. When abusers and manipulators and toxic people do horrible things to you, and then you respond in a human way, like by saying, ouch, don't do that, or you cry, or you run, or you say, quit being mean to me, quit abusing me, why are you doing that? They don't like it that you're questioning them. Who are you to question them? They flip the script on you, they blame you. That's what happens. That's what they do. It's what they're good at. They deflect, they deflect, they deflect. It's this, it's that, it's a heart attack, it's an asthma attack, it's your fault, it's their fault. It's, I'm on my period, I'm hungry, I'm this, I'm that, we don't have any money, we don't have this, you need to go over there. Like, they do 12 different things to blame. They feel ashamed, so they blame something or someone else. Shame, blame game. There you go. All right. That was real. Okay, Joey. Joey says, Grace Hope, will you please let me know if that was helpful for you? I did not want to trigger you. I want to validate you that that is very real, and that happens to a lot of people. I get some version of that question every week from someone, either in an email or a DM or something. They have someone that is abusing them or exploiting them, and when they call them out on it, they turn it all around on them. They turn it around on them and they blame them for it. So please let me know if that was helpful for you. Joey says, does anyone here struggle with self-pleasure, self-care, like self-care in parentheses, because it makes you feel like a victim, or am I the only one? Joey, you are not alone. I personally struggle with doing nice things for myself because I do feel like I'm babying myself, like I'm just being a 5-year-old. Like, grow up already, Athena. You don't have to, be patient with yourself. You don't have to be kind to yourself. What's wrong with you already? Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. So Joey, you're not alone. I struggle with that as well. And I'm sure that you and I are not the only two people on the planet. There are 1 billion survivors statistically. And I'm assuming that this is something that other people struggle with as well. If not, Joey, you're in good company because I struggle too. So I'm going to move on here to Maya. Maya, I'm so happy to see you, Maya. Maybe the key to getting out of the victim loop is by removing all toxic people from your life. Also, learning daily self-care. Ding, 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 ding. Yes. Yes. If I could get a tattoo on like my wrist or something that says, remove all toxic people from your life, Athena, and practice excellent, healthy daily self-care. And I did those things, my life would be far less destructive and far less frustrating. Because yes, 2 keys to getting out of the victim loop are definitely removing toxic people from your life. Why? Because you're worth it. I guess step 1 would be believing that you're worth it. Believe that you're worth it. If no one's told you that you're worth not having toxic people in your life and not being spoken to in rude, disgusting, vulgar ways, then I want to be the first person to tell you that it's true. And I got hundreds and thousands of people on this YouTube channel that will echo what I just said to you. So if it's the first time anyone's ever told you you're worth it, I'm telling you that you're worth it, because you are. So yes, remove those toxic people from your life. Believe you're worth it. And daily self-care. Now, Heather Tuba, you can find her at heathertuba.com. She forwarded me an awesome article last week, and it talked about self-care, but it reframed self-care because a lot of people struggle with the words self-care. Self-care, the words in and of themselves, can be very triggering for us because we were told or shown through words and actions at a very young age that we were not worth taking care of ourselves. And so even the words self-care can be triggering for us, and calming, soothing, bubble bath, et cetera, like things that people burn candles, incense, meditation, things that are calming, et cetera. Some of those things are triggering for people because they were told or shown through words and actions over and over and over for many years of their lives that they weren't worth self-care. And so this gal that wrote this article, in fact, I believe her name was Addie Zierman, I think, was the author of that article, which you can read her blog at addiezierman.com, ADDIEZIERMAN. I believe she was the one who wrote the article. And I'm telling you, I fell in love with this girl. She nailed it. You want to know what she called self-care? She called it resourcing. Is this something that is refilling my resources? Anything that refills your resources, that fills you up, is self-care. Anything that doesn't deplete you, anything that fills you up, is self-care. So I'm hoping that helps you. I definitely struggle with self-care. Sometimes because of the words self-care, but sometimes just because I don't have a lot of patience with myself and I don't give myself enough time to do the things that I really, really need. So yeah, yes, 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 Maya. I want a little tattoo on my wrist that tells me to remove all toxic people and to practice excellent daily self-care. Or maybe I could just have like the word toxic with like a circle and an X through it, and then like the word resourcing. I don't know, but those are two ways that are definitely helpful for us to move into getting out of the victim loop, and doing those things over and over and over again, removing those toxic people and taking good care of ourselves. We become more resilient over time. So they go hand in hand. Resilience and getting out of victim mode, they go hand in hand. They touch, they overlap in many ways. Hopefully that was helpful. Thank you so much, Maya, for being here tonight. Let's see. Oh yeah, lots of talk over on the Twitter feed and in the YouTube chat box about Rachel Grant's book, From Surviving to Thriving. Such a great resource, I agree. And just I'll give you a little spoiler alert, okay? Maybe in the future, Rachel Grant might stop by on a Monday night and hang out with us, because I'm sort of like in the works of like figuring that out. So spoiler alert, that might happen. And she's a wealth of knowledge. She and I met a long, long time ago when I started my very, very first podcast called 15 Minute Radio, and I interviewed her. That was probably back in 2012. So gosh, that was a long time ago, but she's been a huge inspiration in my life and has encouraged me in many, many, many ways. So stay tuned for that coming up in like the months ahead, weeks and months ahead. Simi says, I feel unworthy of your love. Oh, is I feel unworthy of your love a part of the victim loop? Okay. Let me process this. Okay. So if I am communicating my feelings and saying, I feel unworthy of your love, is that part of the victim loop? First of all, I think even communicating your feelings is a step toward a healthy, proactive lifestyle. A healthy, proactive lifestyle means that we're communicating our needs and our feelings. So if we say, I feel unworthy of your love, I need to feel worthy of your love. I would prefer if when you shared that you love me, perhaps you could share it in this way, which would help me to be able to better receive your love. I feel like you're onto something there, Simi. Like even being able to have the courage to share, I feel unworthy of your love, is a really big step. Many people never even get to that point. They silently suffer feeling unworthy for anybody's love or anything whatsoever. They silently struggle in isolation without community, thinking, I'm not worthy of love, I'm unlovable, I was born wrong, I don't deserve your kindness, I don't deserve your love, I feel unworthy. Like they think all these things, but they never reach out and communicate those things. So I wouldn't say that it's part of the victim loop at all. Being in a victim loop is learned helplessness. Like I think I need to go to the screen share because it's really laid out rather nicely from the two gentlemen, the two male survivors that suggested tonight's topics. So I might go to the screen share, Simi, and hopefully that will help. But my gut response is the fact that you're even able to communicate to anyone, I'm feeling unworthy of your love, is the fact you're communicating your feelings, and it's showing that you have a need to feel loved, but you're just not sure how to. So I wouldn't say that that's part of a victim loop at all. Being in a victim loop is falling backwards in our recovery, where we'd reached a certain point and we were feeling pretty resilient, and we were feeling like we had hope, like our lives were going to get better, and we could see ourselves making some progress, and then falling backwards in that, and then just allowing ourselves to sort of be back in that place of letting people treat us poorly, letting people be abusive towards us, allowing people to manipulate us, not stepping up and really establishing those daily healthy habits of being mindful and practicing good self-care, or practicing things, at least one thing per day that is resourcing for us, filling us back up rather than depleting us. Having an active prayer and meditation life, whatever your beliefs are. I'm a woman of faith. I believe in God, and I have a very active prayer life, where I have quiet time where I just refresh my soul. We need to do a couple things every day, at least one thing per day, every day, intentionally, that refreshes our soul, that fills us up. And that's super important. So when we fall back into the victim loop, we allow ourselves, we are giving our power away again. We are, instead of being in a place where we are practicing a healthy and proactive lifestyle, where we're establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries, we are choosing activities and relationships that refresh our soul. We are actually not doing those things, and we're falling back into old habits, where all of us have old habits versus new habits. All of us do. 100% of the population in the world, not just survivors. Some of my old habits are skipping breakfast, not taking vitamins, allowing my abusers and enablers to call me and text me whenever they wanted to, or even stop by my house. Those are old behaviors. And if I were to allow myself to slide backwards into those old behaviors of skipping breakfast, not taking vitamin supplements, allowing my abusers and enablers to text me and call me and stop by my house whenever they wanted to, unannounced, allowing my abusers and enablers or toxic loved ones to speak to me in a manner in which they would speak to a dog. They even treat their dog nicer than they would treat me. They and they talk to their dog like this. And then when they talk to me, they just talk down at me, like as though I'm just a piece of garbage, and just with disdain, and just, they roll their eyes when they talk about me or to me. And I just would allow those behaviors. And I just, or some old behaviors for me, old habits for me will be choosing not to practice excellent daily hygiene, not brushing my teeth on a regular basis, not showering on a regular basis. Why? Why would I struggle with brushing my teeth or showering? Because oftentimes horrible and abusive things happen to me in the bathroom. I was either screamed at through the door, I was picked on, or ridiculed for being in the bathroom too long, using too much water. Why am I taking so long to brush my teeth? What am I doing in there? What are you doing in there? Hurry up, flush the toilet. I mean, just horrible things happen to me in the bathroom. And so if I get triggered, or I slide backwards into doing old behaviors, and where I'm skipping breakfast, I'm not taking vitamin supplements, I'm not eating an anti-inflammatory diet, I'm not getting any exercise, I'm not leaving the house, I'm not showering, not brushing my teeth, sliding backwards down that slippery slope into like a deep, deep, deep sort of depression, or feelings of despair and hopelessness. Those are things that can happen if I'm not practicing a healthy, proactive lifestyle, if I'm not intentionally choosing what I'm going to say, think, and do on a daily basis. I have to be intentional. I'm only speaking for myself and what I recommend for all of my clients. And that is, if you grew up in an abusive environment, guess what? Your automatic factory setting is effed up. It's broken. So in order to rewrite and reprogram your factory setting, you have to live an intentional, proactive lifestyle. You have to intentionally think good thoughts about yourself. You have to intentionally eat healthy foods, because you're worth it, no matter what anybody said. You have to intentionally get enough rest. You have to intentionally get a little bit of exercise. You have to intentionally speak kind words to yourself and only allow other people to speak kind words to you. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm hoping that that will help you. But if you grew up in a toxic environment, you have to rewrite your original factory setting, and you have to live a healthy, proactive lifestyle by intentionally planning ahead. Plan your work, work your plan. If you don't, you will slide back into a place of depression and despair and hopelessness. And I'm not trying to speak death over you. I want to speak nothing but love, love, love over all of you. And I love you so much that I want you to know that you need to be intentional about what you think and about what you speak to yourself and about what you put in your body and about the actions you have and the way you allow people to speak to you must be intentional. These things that I just explained to you and that I just listed, they will all help you to feel more resilient and to not stay stuck in victim mode, because you care so much about yourself that you won't allow yourself to be victimized anymore. And the more you do it, even just once, just having the courage to do it once, you're going to want to do it again. And then the more you practice those daily habits of really being intentional about what you're thinking and what you're putting in your body and what you're saying and the way you're allowing people to talk to you, you become more resilient over time. So, gosh, I hope that's helpful. Heather Tuba says, Simi, will you please let me know if that's helpful? I'm also going to do a screen share. I need to do a screen share within the next 5 minutes. From the questions that were from tonight's topic, why we are even on this topic. I have 2 gentlemen that posed 2 questions, and I want to do a screen share on them very, very soon. I'm going to finish these questions, and then I'm going to do a screen share for you. So, Simi, I hope that was helpful. Heather Tuba says, child abuse affects brain physiology, leading to freeze response, and freezing does not make you a victim. I really want to echo what Heather Tuba is saying here. It is true that child abuse affects your brain physiology. You have a brain injury if you were abused over a long period of time. If you were in a child abuse situation over a long period of time, you have incurred a brain injury. I'm going to say that again. If you were abused over a long period of time, there is a chance that you have incurred a brain injury. So physiologically, your brain doesn't respond the way other people's brains might, someone who wasn't abused at a young age over a long period of time. So not only are you possibly living with PTSD or dissociation or anxiety, or possibly even symptoms of complex PTSD, you have a brain injury. When we are abused over a long period of time, the lower part of our brain is the one that responds quickest, and it's not always freeze. Heather brings up a great point that a lot of people have a freeze response. A lot of people freeze and then they fawn, or they freeze and then they flee, or they freeze and then they fight. Some people don't have a trauma response that's automatically freeze first. Some people, their trauma response is fight, fawn, or fight, flee, or fawn, freeze, where they try to talk their way out of their way, talk their way out of the situation, and then they're just frozen, and then they don't know what to do. Whatever your trauma response is, your trauma response does not make you a victim. Period. I want to echo, high five, asterisk, throw some confetti, agree with 100,000 amens up in here with what Heather Tuba said, and that is that your brain physiology has been affected and it does not make you a victim. Hopefully that helps you. I'm hoping that's very helpful for someone out there. Someone needed to hear that. Someone needed to hear that tonight. Someone needed to hear that just because they freeze or just because they have an automatic response that they wish was different doesn't mean that they're a victim, and it doesn't mean anything's wrong with them. It just means it's going to take some time to work through this. And the more we're proactive and the more we're intentional about what we think and what we say and what we do and what we put in our body, then the healthier we're going to become. So I'm hoping that's helpful. Thank you so much, Heather Tuba. So Young at Heart says, I have been so used to being the one giving the care and neglecting myself, but learning how to put me first. Have been so used to being the one giving the care and neglecting myself, but learning now to put me first. Yes. So Young at Heart, a lot of times when we are children growing up in an environment which is toxic in nature and is not healthy and loving and supportive, unconditionally loving and supportive, where your basic needs for food, safety, shelter, love, affection, those things are not met, then you are the one that sort of feels responsible for giving that care. You have come to realize from a very young age that if you are the one giving the care and you're the one doing and giving, even at the expense of your own well-being, even when you sacrifice your own well-being in order to give for other people, that could be a survival strategy. That could be a coping strategy, something that you used to survive when you were younger, and that does not make you a victim. But what you're doing now, you're shifting from neglecting yourself to learning how to put yourself first. That is going to be a huge learning curve for you. There's going to be a huge, like, rainbow shaped learning curve for you on that one. It's going to be hard. And I want to just let you know that I'm praying and hoping that you will that you will be patient with yourself, because over time I've had to learn to retrain my brain to not neglect my own well-being in order to give to someone else. I've had to learn not to sacrifice my own health on the altar of someone else's approval. Or as Bobby loves to say, light yourself on fire to keep others warm. So if you are sacrificing your own well-being and neglecting your own needs and well-being for someone else's good, then that is a good indication that you are going to need to perhaps pause and find a way to find something that is resourcing for you, something that is good self-care, something that fills you up or feeds your soul. And that is a learning curve. If you grew up in a toxic environment where you were taking care of other people, and chances are you have fawn in your trauma response. Perhaps you're a freeze fawn. You sort of freeze when something bad happens, and then you figure out a way to make it all better. I'm a freeze fawn, and so I, for most of my life, neglected myself so that I could care for others, because that was how I survived as a child. And that survival strategy, that coping mechanism does not serve me well in my adult life. So I've had to pause and ask for accountability in those areas. Like, if my husband sees me doing too much, I've shared with him, I need you to call me out on that. I need you to remind me to breathe, or to go slower, or to have patience, or to not overcommit, or to establish some healthy boundaries, or create margin in my life. Like, I have accountability in those areas now, because without accountability in those areas, I will completely self-destruct, because I am programmed. I was programmed from birth to give until it hurts. And the more you give, then maybe it'll get better, but it never does. So I hope that's helpful. I'm in the same boat as you are, and I'm learning how to not do it. And if I can do it, you can do it. I know for sure. So JJ Strong says, please let me know if that was helpful, Young at Heart. I just want to make sure that all these answers are helpful for you guys. And if they're not, I want to answer them in a way that is helpful the best way I know how, if I've gotten something wrong, or I've misread the question. JJ Strong says, I'm trying so hard to get out of the victim loop. It's definitely instinctual to give my power away. Yes. This goes hand in hand with what Young at Heart was saying. And JJ Strong, I just want to tell you that this is a Me Too moment for me. So I went from being raised in an environment that was less than ideal, adverse childhood experiences. My score is a 10. If you guys don't know what your ACEs score is, then go to acestoohigh.org and find out what your ACEs score is. Mine's a 10. Turns out that 10 being a perfect score is not an ideal situation. So when you grow up in an adverse childhood experience, it is instinctual for you to give your power away. There's always someone around you that has more power, and they need yours. They are sucking the life out of you. They want to keep you under their thumb. They want you to be obedient, or they want you to sacrifice your own well-being for their own good. They're exploiting you in some way. And if that's the case, like mine was, I grew up in a situation in a home that was there were a lot of adverse childhood experiences. There were, you know, weapons and drugs and fighting and domestic violence, and there was not a lot of healthy situations, and there were no healthy conversations going on. There was no healthy communication going on. There were not healthy behaviors being modeled for me. And so I went straight from that into being a single mom. So I was 18 years old, pregnant, married my son's dad, whom I had met when I was 14 years old. And 3 days after I turned 19, I gave birth to my son. Well, my son's dad called do-over and moved on about a year or so later. And so I was a single mom until my son left for the military. So what happens when you go from a situation where you're living in an abusive environment for 17 solid years, 18 solid years, you're bounced around. I went to 6 different elementary schools. I moved all across wherever. I lived in California. I lived in all different parts of California, Riverside County, Orange County. I lived all over the place. I lived in Florida briefly when my mother joined the circus. You can't make this stuff up. I moved back. I went to only one middle school and only one high school. But when I moved around so much the first 11 years of my life, I had no ground, no moorings. I had no roots. I had no stability. I felt very unsure of myself at all times, 24/7, 365. So I went from that, and then when I was 11 or 12 years old, being in middle school, and then I met my son's dad like a couple years later, I was very, very, very insecure. I had no self-worth whatsoever. I was coming from abuse of every single fashion. And I was just happy to have somebody paying attention to me that wasn't yelling and screaming. So I went into that relationship with him. I dated, had different boyfriends. I ended up marrying my son's dad and having my son when I was 19. I turned 19, had him 3 days later, and then ended up being a single mother. So I went from sacrificing myself on the altar of my family's approval to doing the same thing with my son's dad, to doing the same thing with my son. So someone else always had my power is what I'm saying, JJ Strong. So giving my power away felt very natural to me. It was all I ever knew. It was a comfortable place for me to be in. In fact, I remember with my husband, with my husband Jim here, like not too long ago, even when we were very first married, like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I remember him asking me a question and me saying, I just want you to choose. Like, I just want to be told what to do. Like, just tell me, don't make me choose. I sometimes fall back into that place where I don't want to take a powerful stance. It's very uncomfortable for me to speak my mind and to take a powerful stance. And when I do it, and then I'm met with some sort of, question, or perhaps I rub somebody the wrong way, I actually gain the courage enough to actually speak my mind or ask a question, and then I'm treated poorly because of it, or I'm not met with the response that I was hoping for, it causes me to retreat and then not want to do that ever again. But I'm telling you, it's worth keep trying. Don't give up, JJ. Don't give up taking your power back. Don't give up standing up for yourself. Don't give up asserting your opinions, making sure that you're living your life in a way that is in integrity with yourself. You must be living your life in a way that you feel confident and good about. You need to be able to look at yourself every night in the mirror as you lay your head on the pillow and know that you did your best and that you lived your life in a way that is the healthiest you know how to live. Because then your anxiety is decreased, your anxiety diminishes and goes away. And a lot of times our dissociative symptoms go away and our PTSD isn't as bad when we stop doing those unhealthy behaviors. So giving away our power is something that comes natural to us, and standing up for ourselves feels completely awkward and uncomfortable at first, but it is so, so, so worth it. And if you want a great place to practice those new life skills, like speaking up for yourself, and you want a place where no one's going to shame you and people are going to cheer you on, we have virtual safe groups. Go over to the About section of our YouTube channel and follow the little 4-step process and get plugged in to one of our safe groups. I'm inviting you. So every single person is vetted. There are questions. There's a process. It takes a couple weeks to get in sometimes. Sometimes it takes a month to get in. But when you're in, and you're able to practice new life skills and receive encouragement for those behaviors so that you're being bolstered in your new confidence and in your new behaviors, and so that you're being encouraged in using those behaviors that are healthy, and you're not giving your power away all the time. Because if you can do it in a safe environment and practice it, then you can go out into the real world and not feel so awkward and sort of wobbly when you're doing those things. So hopefully that's helpful, JJ. I so resonate with everything you're saying. Stu, hey Stu, I'm so happy you're here. Stu says, why is self-care so hard? I believe this is in reference to the victim loop and feeling unworthy. Yes. Okay, so self-care is hard because self-care isn't hard for everybody. I want to preface that. I want to say real clearly that self-care isn't hard for everybody. So for normals, like my husband, normals in air quotes, like people who were not raised in an abusive environment, people who were raised in an environment that was loving and healthy and all of their basic needs were met. I'm not talking la la land. I'm talking like, you know, there was healthy food. There were always clothes. There wasn't yelling and screaming. There was no domestic violence. There were no weapons, drugs, alcohol, all kinds of crazy toxic stuff going on, moving, going to all these different schools, having one trauma after another on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. For people who were not raised in those things I just mentioned, people like my husband who were raised in a stable environment, self-care is not hard. My husband will wake up on a Saturday or a Sunday and I'll be like, what are you going to do today? And he's like, I'm going to rest and I'm going to relax and I'm going to go to the beach and I'm going to go for a swim and I might play golf. I might go play tennis. I might mow the lawn. I might do whatever. I might take a nap. And like, he just like rocks that self-care. He makes it look easy. And I'm like, wow, that is an amazing role model for me in self-care. And I've learned a lot over the past 5 or 6 years that we've been together, because he really is a model of very, very, very healthy, resourcing, fulfilling your soul activities. He does things that refresh his soul on his days off. And he feels that it's perfectly healthy to do so. And I do too. I'm grateful that he sets that example for me, because guess what? Those examples were not set for us if we grew up in a toxic environment. If we grew up where there was abuse, where we were treated poorly, where we were expected to take responsibility for everybody else's words, actions, everything, you name it, then self-care is difficult. We were taught, the direct answer to your question, Stu, is we were taught as children who were abused, we were taught through words and or actions that we are not worth good things. We are not worth being kind to ourselves. We are not worth slowing down and being patient. We are not worth being loved and cared for and loved appropriately. We are not worth good things. That was the message that was told to us over and over and over and over again through words and or actions. And since we were told those things when we were younger, either probably below the age of 8 years old, when our entire personality and everything was being formed about us, we could not tell the difference between what other people were doing to us and just us, ourselves. So if we were being treated poorly and we were being abused and bad things were happening to us at a very young age, our child's mind decides, our child's mind doesn't know how to reason like an adult and says, wow, bad things are happening. Gosh, abuse is happening. There are some abusive things going on in my environment right now. Like, children don't have those reasoning capabilities. When you're a child and abuse is happening, bad things are happening, painful things are happening to you, whether it's through words or actions, you figure out when you're a child, you don't figure out those bad things are happening. You turn it in and you go, I must be bad. The reason those bad things are happening is because I must be bad. And people who are bad don't deserve good things. So that's why self-care is hard for us. And that's my answer. And that answer may not resonate with a lot of you. Take the best and leave the rest. No need to be nasty. I'm telling you that for many of us, we were treated poorly through words and or actions, and therefore we deduced that we were not worth good things. We were not worth kindness. We were not worth patience. We were not worth love. We were not worth taking care of ourselves, because in our child's minds, we deduce if we would have been worthy of love, kindness, and patience, then of course the people that are taking care of us would have treated us with love, kindness, and patience. That's what our child's mind reasoned, because that's a child's reasoning. Bad things happen, that means I'm bad. I am the reason bad things happen. Me, I, me, mine. Like when you're a child, everything is me and mine, including all the bad stuff that happens. Bad things happen, we snatch it up and we go, that's mine. Yep, it's because me, I'm bad. Like that's just what our child's mind does. So I hope that was helpful, Stu. Such an excellent question, Stu. That was like the question of the year. Many survivors live their lives wondering their whole life, why is self-care hard? Why is it hard to be kind to myself? Why is it hard to be patient with myself? Why is it hard to be loving toward myself? Why? That's why, because you were taught otherwise through words and or actions. That's why. I hope that was helpful, Stu. By the way, thanks for all the awesome work you do up there at the Gatehouse in Canada. High five, confetti. You're amazing. We need more people like Stu in this world. So thank you, Stu, for being here tonight. Dissociative Jess, hi Jess, says, I was programmed from birth to give till it hurts. I don't do better self-care because of this. Yep. Did you get into my mind? Did you and I live the exact same life? That's me. I identify with that so much. Oh my goodness. Yes, Jess, that's exactly what happens. But I'm hoping that it's getting easier and better as you get older, because you're worth it, Jess. You're amazing. So high fives to you. Oh, and to the lovely spammer in the YouTube chat, I see you. We're reporting you right now. You are not allowed to spam our chat and be horrible and rude. This is a survivor community where people who were sexually abused as children are trying to get healthy. So you have too much time on your hands to come here and bother us. You are not welcome here. Yeah. You all, if every single one of you could report whoever it is that's in the YouTube chat box right now trying to destroy our community, that would be amazing, because he doesn't deserve to be here. Shame on you. These people are trying to heal. We are trying to heal. So go find somewhere else to be. I'm sorry that you feel so terrible about yourself that you have to just mistreat everyone here in our chat. He'll probably give me a thumbs down on my video. I got a thumbs down on my video last week because I called somebody out on something via Twitter. Anyway, I know it was them. I mean, I just do. So anyway, and whenever I talk about narcissists, I get thumbs down, because people who are narcissistic and predatory in nature hear what I'm saying and they're like, ooh, I want to harm this girl, and they give me a thumbs down. So if this video is helpful for you and you're not predatory, could you give it a thumbs up? That would be amazing. Okay, I'm going to head over and do a screen share now. Oh, good. I think he's gone now. Yay. You guys need to all report that dude, because that's just so not welcome. I'm going to do a screen share now. Shout out to the two brave, amazing gentlemen that sent in these questions. You are the reason we did this topic this week. And hopefully I do this some justice. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see this. If someone could let me know. I know there are 31 of you that are on the YouTube app right now. I don't know how many of you are on our website, and I know that there are at least that many of you on Twitter. So if someone could just let me know if you could see this screen share, that would be amazing. I'm going to read this to you for those of you who are driving, listening on a podcast platform, or even listening to it on YouTube. I don't want you looking while you're driving. So I'm just going to read this to you. These are the questions for this week's chat. I asked the question, what topics would you like me to cover in a video? And this was the response. There are two responses. Resilience. Even though I have been through therapy and I continue to do all the right things for my recovery, I still have moments and some triggers and other unexpected and unforeseen things that happen that I have to deal with. Therapy made it better, but those things I was in therapy for are a part of me, and they always will be. It is resilience that becomes so very important when something happens. Sometimes it's easy, but sometimes it feels like I'm reverting to my old self that I didn't like before all of the therapy and recovery. So I'm going to pause there, and I just want to say, yes, yes, yes. Resilience. So the way that we become resilient, you guys, we've discussed this a little bit about an hour ago on the broadcast. The way we become resilient is by finding ways to lead a healthy, proactive lifestyle. We are intentional about thinking good things about ourselves. We're intentional about saying kind things about ourselves and others. We're intentional about feeding our body what it needs, healthy foods. If you need anti-inflammatory foods like I do, a lot of abuse survivors really should be switching to an anti-inflammatory diet because trauma inflames your body. Trauma in the body, whether it's psychological trauma or physical trauma, whatever it is, it inflames the area that is traumatized. So if your brain was soaking in a toxic soup of adrenaline and cortisol for 5, 6, 7, 8, 17 years when you were growing up because it was trauma after trauma after trauma, abuse after abuse, domestic violence, weapons, drugs, yelling, screaming, moving, divorce, blaming, whatever it was, or your brain was likely, obviously I haven't run a CT scan or an MRI on your particular brain because there are 1 billion of us statistically, but if you were to Google an abused brain versus a healthy child brain, you would come up with an image that would show you that brains are different. Certain areas are inflamed or eaten away or even smaller, and they don't grow at the same rate. So when we choose to lead a healthier, proactive lifestyle through the way that we think, the way that we speak, the way that we act, the choices we make, the food we put in our bodies, sleeping, getting the proper amounts of rest. I recommend 7 hours of rest minimum. Sometimes we need more than 7 hours. Going for, even if it's just a 30-minute walk, it doesn't have to be fast. If you are disabled, as many of our community members are, if you're disabled through MS or you're in a wheelchair or you have other things going on, just finding other ways to whether it's doing some arm curls or even just getting outside and breathing some fresh air, having someone take you for a walk is super duper duper healthy. And it's very grounding and it's very soothing for your brain and for your body. So just choosing to live a healthier, proactive lifestyle is something that is super duper duper important so that we can become resilient. So I just want to agree with the gentleman that sent in this question. I'm going to agree with that first part. It does become so very important when something happens that we remember those things that we learn. We remember those best practices that we learn, whether it's in therapy or through a good coach or a good helping professional that's trauma informed. So I'm going to move down here to the second part of his post. Staying with it and not allowing myself to revert to old habits is sometimes more difficult than it sounds, but we can manage it with our own empowerment. Yes, you guys, we can. We definitely can. If we are very intentional in and of ourselves and making healthy choices, healthy daily choices, not just randomly, like once a month, we do something kind for ourselves. But when we're intentional about doing one thing that refreshes our soul on a daily basis, it does really, really, really help. I want to echo everything that he's saying. He goes on to say, even though I have found that I rely a considerable amount on my faith, I think something about this would really, really be helpful for a lot of people, even if they don't share the same faith. Plus, I think it would be helpful to see what could be on the other side of recovery. Okay, so I want to talk about faith really quick. He mentions here, I have found that I rely a considerable amount on my faith. I want to pause there. Me personally, as an adult survivor of childhood sexual abuse and exploitation, you guys have heard me say this a lot of times before on this channel, and I want to echo what he said, and that is that if it was not for my relationship with God, I would not be alive right now. I would not have survived my suicide attempts. I truly believe that there are modern day miracles, and whatever it is your faith belief is. I don't want to trigger you. Please just take the part of this broadcast that you enjoy or that is applicable to you. And if this is not something that applies to you because you do not have the same faith as I do, or as this person who wrote in, it doesn't mean that you're not going to recover. Okay. I'm just sharing that for me personally, my faith has been an integral part of my recovery. If it wasn't for my faith in Jesus, I don't think I would have recovered. So that is my own personal belief. I know a lot of people rely on their faith. A lot of people rely on a higher power that they draw power from, a higher power that is more powerful than they are, so that when they are running low on their own power, they reach out for their higher power's power. That is the case for me. So, and that's the case for this gentleman that wrote in. It doesn't necessarily need to be the case for you. Perhaps you're doing just fine on your own and you don't need a higher power. It doesn't mean that you're not going to recover. That's your deal. Like, go you, high fives. I'm grateful that you're here in this community. This is a place where you will receive non-judgmental support. I do not judge anyone for their faith, their gender, their sexual preference, their gender identity. You are welcome here, especially as it pertains to faith. Different people with different faith beliefs, you are welcome here. But I do think that it lends some credence to this person that wrote in. Says, I found that I rely a considerable amount on my faith, and I do too, me, like Athena, the person speaking. Like, that's definitely something I identify with. He goes on to say, I think something about this would be really, really helpful for a lot of people, even if they don't share the same faith. Plus, I think it would be helpful to see what could be on the other side of recovery. So even if this small portion of the broadcast is not helpful for you because we're talking about faith, I hope that the other 75 minutes of the broadcast was helpful for you, because you can take some healthy daily habits and some best practices that have been shared by other survivors here in our community, and you can apply them to your own daily life, and you can live a life that's healthier. You can make healthier daily choices, a healthier, proactive lifestyle. So I'm going to read on now. He says, I think it would be helpful to see what could be on the other side of recovery. That sentence right there, I think it would be helpful to see what could be on the other side of recovery. I believe that recovery from childhood abuse is a lifelong journey. I do believe we become more resilient over time. That's just my own personal opinion. I'm not saying that God's not able to heal me and all of my years of brain damage. And I'm not saying that God can't heal me from my PTSD. I'm not saying that God can't heal me of my anxiety and my dissociation and the struggles I have as a result of my childhood abuse. I'm not saying God can't do that. I'm saying that He hasn't yet, and I'm finding a way to enjoy my life, period. If God decides to heal me of all of those things, and all of a sudden I wake up one day and I'm not living with PTSD, and I don't struggle with my executive functioning, and I no longer have permanent brain damage as a result of the ongoing years of child abuse, and that I don't have dissociation and I don't have debilitating social anxiety, then hallelujah, praise the Lord. I'll give Him all the glory. That's amazing. But until that day happens, everyone, until that day happens when God chooses to heal me, if that happens this side of heaven, I am going to continue to live a healthy, proactive lifestyle and make as many healthy choices as I can, because I don't have any time to waste. I have people to help. I have a community of people that enjoy being here, and they want help, and they want to know that it's possible to enjoy their life and not be suicidal every day. So I'm doing the best I know how to show that that's possible. And I do lean a lot on my faith. I do have the faith to believe that God helps me through my days. But you know what? If he's not going to miraculously heal me of all of my infirmities this side of heaven, then that's okay. I'm going to continue to help people. I am going to press on. I am going to continue to serve this community with all that I have, and I'm going to do the best I know how. And I'm going to share everything I do with you guys because I want you to be able to do it too. And God, I hope that you'll share it with me. If you find some awesome, magical, amazing, miraculous thing that helps you in your recovery journey, would you please post it in the comments below? Because we could all use some help. Yeah, we could all use some help. So I'm going to move on to the rest of this question here that's sent in by this gentleman. And then I want to go down to the bottom question as well regarding the victim loop. So he goes on to say, not everyone has the same faith, and it is not the only thing I need to rely on either. I also have to rely on myself and find my own resilience through my own empowerment. And you guys, I really want to hone in on this right here, okay? Even if you don't have any faith whatsoever, even if you're agnostic or atheist, and you don't have a faith belief system that you have in place that's in your life that's working for you, you can recover. You can enjoy your life. You can learn to practice healthy daily habits. You can learn to develop a healthier, more proactive lifestyle where you are intentional about the thoughts you think, the words you speak, the food you eat, the actions you take, the people that you allow yourself to be around, and how you allow them to communicate with you. You can, you can, you can, you can. I'm telling you, you can. So someone needed to hear that. And I'm hoping that whoever needed to hear that is here right now. If this video has been helpful for you, can you please give it a thumbs up, post something down in the comments to support other survivors that are going to be watching this video. If you have a message for the survivor community and you've found something that's super helpful for you in your recovery journey and you want to help others, please use this as an opportunity to post something below that will encourage the viewers that will see this video years to come, whether it's today, tomorrow, or years or decades from now, however long YouTube is like a thing, you know? I mean, YouTube might be like the only thing later on down the road. We don't know that. So I'm going to move down to the bottom question, the second question that was sent in by a gentleman. How weird, you guys. I've lost like 6 of you. I lost viewers. I've lost 7 of you now. Wow. I've lost people ever since I switched to the screen share. That's interesting. Maybe I need to rethink this, but I think the screen share is really helpful for you guys. So let me know if you like the screen share, if you prefer for me to stay on camera the whole time, because this is not about me. This is about you guys. I want to showcase these questions that you sent me because you guys are the reason this community is so amazing. I'm going to go down to this bottom question. How about a video on getting out of a victim loop? Some may not know they have the strength to break out, or they may believe that this is their fate. Knowing how to get the strength and the voice to say no. It's our body, and only we have the right to say who can or cannot touch us. So we've talked a lot over the last hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes about ways that we can get out of a victim loop, ways that we can strengthen our psyche, ways that we can become more mindful of the thoughts we think, the words we speak, the foods we eat, the actions that we take, the people we allow ourselves to be surrounded by. But I really want to hone in on this bottom part here, and that is, if you believe that is just your fate, it's not. You have the power of choice now. You're no longer a child, and you can choose. And I want you to know that you do have the strength and the voice to say no. And it is your body, and you are the only one who has a right to say who can or cannot touch you. I want you to know that right now. I'm going to say it again. You have the strength to use your voice. You are able to use your voice to say no, and that's no to unhealthy thoughts. You're able to say no to unhealthy words that you speak to yourself or to others, or that other people are speaking to you. You're able to use your voice now. You have the power to use your voice to say no to the people who want to hang out with you who are toxic, or when people speak ugly things to you, or use an ugly tone of voice, or call you names, or are degrading towards you. You have the power to say no to those things now. And you have the power to say no to anyone who wants to touch you. It is your body, and only you have the right to say who or cannot touch you. And I want to say something else. I want to follow it up. I'm going to follow it up right now with something, okay? That was so excellent. Thank you to the 2 gentlemen that sent in those 2 questions. You guys are awesome and amazing. I'm going to post, they're from one of our, those gentlemen are from one of our secret groups on Facebook. So I'm going to post a thank you to them in our group for posing those 2 questions, because you guys are awesome and I'm so grateful for you. But I want to say this as a follow-up to everything that was just said in those 2 questions, okay? If you were victimized recently as an adult, I want you to know that there is no shame in that, and that you might have been stuck in child mode. You might have been frozen. You might not have known that you could stand up for yourself, and you might not have said anything. You might not have reported it. You might have felt like you allowed it to happen. But that's what happens when you have an automatic trauma response. There is no shame in bringing it up later. There's no shame in saying, hey, I remember that this happened. You're going to get abusive and toxic and manipulative people saying, oh, well, if you remembered, why didn't you say anything at the time? That's a cop-out against that right now. Okay? Just because you didn't call them out on their abusive behavior right away doesn't mean that you can never call them out on their abusive behavior. Someone needs to hear this right now. I'm just going to say it again, okay? Just because you didn't call somebody out on their abuse right when it happened doesn't mean that the abuse should be forgotten about and just excused. There's no excuse for abuse, period. Okay? So I'm going to say it again. If you were abused or victimized recently in your adult years or as a child, and you haven't said anything yet, and you really are thinking that maybe you want to speak up and use your voice because that person might be victimizing you still to this day in your adult years, I want to give you permission to stand up for yourself. And I want to give you permission to not have to have it all figured out. I want to give you permission to not have to figure out the perfect way to report someone or tell someone that you're being abused, or reach out and reach out for help to someone that can help you. I want to give you permission to, even if someone says, well, if you really remembered it, how come you didn't say anything until 30 years later? Well, because I didn't remember it clearly until 30 years later. And that's called trauma. Trauma is seized in the brain until our brain figures out that it's safe enough to remember it. So someone needed to hear that. Like, it's okay if you're just now remembering and it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years later. I want you to know you're not alone. I want you to know that I have support groups filled with hundreds of people. So in a couple of the groups, there's only like 20, 30, 40 people. But in a few of the groups, there are hundreds of people. And a lot of them didn't have their memories until, if they're women, they have their memories when they're in their 30s. Men tend to have their memories more when they're in their 40s. So I want to tell you that it's okay. I want to give you permission to not have it all figured out. I want to give you permission to not have to feel ashamed because you didn't speak up sooner. Because the first thing out of people's mouths when you go to tell them that you were abused, sometimes the first thing out of their mouth is, well, why didn't you say something sooner? And I'll tell you what that's called. That's called victim blaming. Hey, Harriet, could you please pop up a YouTube card? And that is for the video that's called when victim blaming and shaming, or when you're abused, and another YouTube card for one that says when your abuser denies your abuse. So there's going to be down below in the description of this video, there will be some links to these videos that I've mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast and again right now. whole bunch of different links, like 4 different links. Siri thinks I'm talking to her. I'm not talking to you, Siri. I'm not talking to you.
Sigh.
Sigh. That's funny. So I just want you to know that there will be some links in the description section of this video for you. I think I got bit by like a mosquito while I was recording. My forehead itches. There will be some links down in the description section of this video within the next 24 to 48 hours. And there should be some YouTube cards that pop up here. If you're watching on mobile or tablet or laptop or desktop, you should be able to click them. And it will easily take you to the videos that I've mentioned in another browser. So you guys, you're not alone. I just want you to know I'm giving you permission to not have it all figured out. There is no shame in not remembering until you're in your 30s or 40s. There's just no shame in that. It's the way trauma works. Our brains protect us until they decide that we're safe. So I hope that's helpful for some of you. This has been a video on the topic of resilience and getting out of the victim loop. So if this video has been helpful for you, please subscribe to this YouTube channel for more videos that are helpful. And please give this video a thumbs up if you have not already. And thank you, whoever you were just then, for giving this video a thumbs up right now. I appreciate you so much. And share this video with someone if you think that it will be helpful for them. And next week, someone messaged me about doing a live broadcast, a video on the topic of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. What is your ACEs score? So next Monday night, it'll just be me. I'll be here with you, and we will be talking about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And if you're not familiar with ACEs, please Google ACEs, capital A, capital C, capital E, little s, and you'll immediately get their website will pop up, and you can find out what your ACEs score is. So ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences, and you have a scale from 1 to 10 on what your score is. So find out between now and next Monday what your ACEs score is. I scored a perfect 10. So let's see what you scored. I hope you all scored a 0 or a 1. That's what I hope. You'll see what I mean when you go to the website, because if you scored a 0 or a 1, you probably aren't watching this channel because you weren't abused as a child. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off from this video. You guys, I love being with you here every single week. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your encouragement. Thank you for your emails and your cards and your tweets and your direct messages and your Facebook messages, for your texts, for your phone calls, for your SpeakPipe messages from my website. I love hearing your voices. I love reading your handwriting. I love receiving your messages, and I'm just super grateful. Thank you for letting me know that you're receiving the resources that I'm making for you and that they're helpful. And I hope I'll see you here next week on Monday, the 27th of February, 2017, on the topic of ACEs. What is your ACEs score? Adverse childhood experiences. So invite a friend that you know may have been abused during childhood and start tweeting out what the topic's going to be for next week. So maybe we'll get a whole bunch more people. So hey, I gained some of you back again. That's awesome. Okay, well, and because I'm back on camera. So I'm going to sign out of this video right now, but can you please comment below and let me know, like, when I'm on camera, I gain viewers. And then when I screen share and I highlight you guys, the community, I lose people. Like, I wonder if people just don't want screen shares. But anyway, I'm going to continue to do screen shares because I'm highlighting you guys. You guys are the ones that matter. You guys are the reason this community is amazing. So I'm Athena Moberg, and I love bringing you guys everything you need for healthy, trauma-informed recovery. How's that one? That's my new tagline. Okay, bye everybody.